Most people believe that love is built on trust, understanding, and communication. Welcome to Emotional Shadow. They assume relationships operate on what is spoken, what is promised, and what is consciously agreed upon. But the truth is far less simple and far more unsettling. Beneath every serious relationship, no matter how healthy, stable, or loving it seems, there exists a hidden control layer, a quiet system of influence, emotional leverage, subtle power shifts, and psychological pulls that most couples never talk about. This hidden layer is not always malicious, yet it shapes decisions, fuels conflicts, strengthens attachments, and determines who leads and who follows. It is the invisible architecture that decides who compromises first, whose emotions carry more weight, and whose needs quietly become the default priority. And the strangest part is that almost no one realizes they're being influenced by it until the relationship is already changing them. To understand where this hidden control layer comes from, we have to step back into early psychological research. Attachment theorists like John Bowlby revealed that human bonding is not simply emotional. It is deeply strategic and rooted in survival instincts. Later, researchers like Mary Ainsworth exposed how childhood attachment patterns create mental scripts that determine how we attempt to control, secure, avoid, or cling in adult relationships. Even social psychologists like Irving Goffman explained that every relationship comes with roles: protector, validator, peacekeeper, and these roles become forms of power. What most people never notice is that when two adults enter a relationship, they bring not just their personalities, but their entire history of emotional strategies. These strategies form the control layer, shaped by insecurity, fear of loss, desire for closeness, and the need for emotional safety. And often, one partner's strategy becomes stronger, quietly pulling the dynamic in their favor. The origins of this control layer usually appear long before a couple becomes serious. In the first phase of connection, tiny patterns form. One partner becomes the emotional responder, the one who apologizes first, the one who adjusts plans, the one who naturally reads the other's moods. The other partner becomes the emotional axis-C, one whose reactions dictate the atmosphere, whose approval becomes valuable, and whose disappointment carries consequences. These roles get reinforced through simple cause and effect. If making peace ends conflict faster, the peacemaker keeps doing it. If withdrawing gets the other person to chase, withdrawal becomes a strategy. If silence gains power, silence becomes a weapon. Slowly and silently, influence becomes uneven, and the hidden layer begins to strengthen. As the relationship deepens, this layer grows more complex. One partner may gain emotional authority not through dominance, but through sensitivity, unpredictability, or emotional intensity. For example, if one partner becomes distressed more easily, both naturally adapt around that emotion. If one partner fears abandonment, the other learns to provide reassurance, even when they don't receive the same comfort in return. If one partner is more expressive, their emotions take center stage. If one partner is more stoic, their rare reactions feel heavier and more powerful. These imbalances may seem harmless in the beginning, but over time they shift decision-making, communication patterns, and emotional boundaries. The hidden control layer quietly becomes the true operating system of the relationship. The impact of this silent system becomes obvious during conflict. When disagreements occur, couples rarely fight about the surface issue. They fight about influence. Who gets to set the tone? Who decides what matters? Who apologizes first? Who collapses under pressure? And who stands firm? Breaking points emerge when one partner begins to sense the imbalance, even if they cannot describe it. They may start feeling like their needs take more effort to express, that their emotions get less space, or that the relationship becomes harder to negotiate. This leads to resentment, emotional exhaustion, or a sense of being unheard. Meanwhile, the partner with more emotional leverage may feel overwhelmed by responsibility, misunderstood, or pressured to maintain harmony. Both partners suffer, but neither sees the invisible layer controlling them. When the hidden control layer becomes too rigid, emotional intimacy begins to erode. The partner who adapts more eventually feels drained from carrying the emotional load. The partner with more influence may start relying on emotional habits rather than open communication, creating distance without meaning to. Attempts to fix the dynamic often fail because both partners address the symptoms instead of the core structure. They talk about arguments, but not about the unconscious power behind them. They promise to communicate better but repeat the same emotional strategies. They try to rebuild connection but carry old patterns back into the new phase. The hidden layer remains untouched, continuing to dictate the outcome. In modern relationships, this issue has grown even more complex. Studies show that communication breakdowns in couples now stem less from explicit conflict and more from unspoken dynamics, emotional pressure points, silent expectations, and unbalanced emotional labor. People assume manipulation only exists in toxic relationships, yet data reveals that micromanipulation appears in nearly every long-term bond. Withholding affection to gain reassurance, using vulnerability to gain attention, relying on guilt to achieve closeness, or using distance to avoid accountability. None of this is always intentional, but it becomes destructive when repeated unconsciously. Social media intensifies this layer by rewarding emotional extremity, dramatic affection, dramatic withdrawal, dramatic confession, and couples internalize these patterns without realizing it. As a result, the same ancient psychological scripts repeat themselves across modern relationships, creating cycles of miscommunication that feel personal but are actually universal. When viewing all of this together, a startling truth emerges. The hidden control layer is not the enemy. It is the natural outcome of two different emotional histories merging into one shared life. The danger lies only in letting this layer remain invisible. When partners fail to identify the subtle power dynamics shaping their connection, they lose the ability to adjust them. They lose the ability to choose how they love war. To love without fear, guilt, pressure, or silent expectations. There are three major takeaways from understanding the hidden control layer inside every serious relationship. The first is awareness. Every couple must understand that invisible emotional structures exist, and that these structures shape everything from conflict to closeness. Seeing the pattern breaks its power. The second is balance. Healthy relationships require continuous renegotiation of emotional roles. If one partner always apologizes first, always reassures first, always adapts first, the structure will collapse under imbalance. Balance is not natural, it must be actively created. The third is emotional responsibility. Both partners must own their strategies, not just their feelings. Whether one withdraws to feel safe or overwhelms to feel heard, every strategy impacts the dynamic. Mastery begins when both partners recognize how they shape the relationship emotionally. In the end, the fragility of trust and love lies in how easily these invisible layers form and how silently they operate. A relationship can be filled with affection, yet still be pulled by unseen forces. Love can be strong, but emotional patterns can be stronger if left unchecked. Reflecting on these hidden dynamics is not about finding fault, but about protecting the bond from becoming trapped in old scripts. Understanding the control layer is understanding how to love with intention instead of instinct. If you found this exploration meaningful, stay connected. More insights into hidden relationship psychology, emotional dynamics, and human connection are waiting here. Continue learning, continue growing, and don't forget to subscribe for deeper content that reshapes the way you understand love.